hit you up, I'm talking about bangers. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make the sting or something. Girl, you like my body. Post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around when I bust it down in my shit, them lanes did it. Got a chick with my dick's mirror lips, basically if this bitch label me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. It's 2 a.m. club, but I got the clothes up. Coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. Then I met you, kick game and followed you to the breakfast spot. You like I'm ready to shoot that light up in the Mary. I feel that your cherry pop. Drunk and switching up position, thought this shit would never stop. Motherfucker in the mission, gang.
Nigga, I ain't laughing. Take a swig out of this 40. Then I'ma start to smash. And I want to make a nigga. I can double that to taxes. So no way that on my level. Not even up in my bracket. You on a I'm getting money. You don't see that shit every day.
When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down in my shit, them lanes did it. Got a chick with my dick's mirror lips, basically if this bitch label me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. When I hit you up, I'm talking about bangers. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make the sting or something. Girl, you like my body. Post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down in my shit, them lanes did it. Got a chick with my dick's mirror lips, basically if this bitch label me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. Then I met you, kick game and followed you to the breakfast spot. You like I'm ready to shoot that night up in the Mary. I feel that your cherry pop. Drunk and switching up position, thought this shit would never stop. Motherfucker in the mission, gang.
Nigga, I ain't laughing. Take a swig out of this 40. Then I'ma start to smash. And I want to make a nigga. I can double that to taxes. So no way that on my level. Not even up in my bracket. You on a I'm getting money. You don't see that shit every day.
When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down in my shit, them lanes did it. Got a chick with my dick's mirror lips, basically if this bitch label me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. When I hit you up, I'm talking about bangers. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make the sting or something. Girl, you like my body. Post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down in my shit, them lanes did it. Got a chick with my dick's mirror lips, basically if this bitch label me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. Then I met you, kick game and followed you to the breakfast spot. You like I'm ready to shoot that night up in the Mary. I feel that your cherry pop. Drunk and switching up position, thought this shit would never stop. Motherfucker in the mission, gang.
Nigga, I ain't laughing. Take a swig out of this
wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down, then my shit, them names did. Gotta kick with my dick's mirror lips, did. Basically, if this bitch lay with me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Thumbing through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. When I hit you up, I'm talking about banging something. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make the sting or something. Girl, you like my bottom, post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down, then my shit, them names did. Gotta kick with my dick's mirror lips, did. Basically, if this bitch lay with me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Thumbing through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. Then I met you, kick game, and followed you to the breakfast spot. Fuck you like I'm ready to that night up in the Marriott. Got your cherry pop, drunk and switching up position. Thought that shit would never stop. Motherfucker, intermission.
Like funny, but nigga, I ain't laughing. Take a swig out on this 40. Then I'ma start to spaz. And I want to make a nigga. I can double that to taxes. So no way that on my level, not even up in my bracket. You on my I'm getting money, you don't see that shit every day.
When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I bust it down, then my shit, them names did. Gotta kick with my dick's mirror lips, did. Basically, if this bitch lay with me, she paying me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. This 2 a.m. club was about to close up. Thumbing through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. When I hit you up, I'm talking about banging something. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make the sting or something. Girl, you like my bottom, post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around town when I
This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with Kinda Real Name. Here's another OMFL production.
Alright, good morning and welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly podcast show for the OMFL, man. We're so glad that you are with us. It has been a little bit since we've spit out a show because last week when we tried to do a show, the CFM was down, and so there was really nothing to do a show with. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I got a special guest with me today. My other guys are still super busy, and so they were not able to join us, but we got the commissioner of the TFL, so it's an honor to have Mr. Bloop with us this morning. How you doing this morning, Bloop?
Thanks, Nate. I'm still so tired this morning, but I'm here, so I'm excited to go and do another show of Press Pass Live.
Yeah, you are here. We made it, and it'll be a fun show, man. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a couple of different weeks. So we are already in week number 12 here in the OMFL, which is just kind of crazy how quick this season is going. And that's even with about 4 or 5 days there where we had to pause because the CFM was up and down. But it feels good. I know that they had some issues that they had to fix, but I played last night, and the game is fun again. Like it's getting there, right? It still has its quirky things, but I think it always will have its quirky things. This is when those quirky things start to like get on people's nerves, and then when we get in like January, February, March, it's really on people's nerves, and then by the time we get to May and June, people are like, I'm done. I can't take another second of this quirky little thing that this game does. But I think it's still a really fun game. I know that it is. They've played with it a whole bunch, and they've like tried to mess with it, and it's really messed with our sliders, but I feel like we've got the sliders figured out, and so we're in a good place. Kev and Smash, thanks for tuning in this morning. Hopefully everybody else will wake up and come and join us. Well, let's jump in. Let's talk about the last couple of weeks. So we're going to go back to weeks 8, 9, 10, or 11. Any of those weeks a favorite game? Do you have a game that was kind of your favorite game from any of those weeks?
Yeah, I do. I was looking at it. I've only watched blowouts and your games lately, but I did see a game that was interesting to me back in week 8 there, Seahawks versus Bears. Two, teams that are always really good. The Bears have really turned it around. I think the last time we did a show, I think you were all over that, saying that the Bears are going to turn it around with that great defense. So yeah, the Seahawks and Bears, they played to a 19-15 finish. The Seahawks outgained the Bears 259 yards to 166 yards, so a super defensive game. I thought it was just really interesting. Like Smash found a way to win with only 46 passing yards from Mitch Trubisky in the game. After you take out sacks, only 27 yards. But he had 139 rushing yards. I
hate to make you pause. Is that not the craziest stat from a winning team that you've ever seen in your life? Smash, I know, I was watching this morning, but he won a game passing the ball with 46 passing yards, 20 of which came on one play.
Yeah. When I was just going through games, because like I said, I only watched blowouts, not even like 3-score games, so it was like kind of hard to pick those ones. But when I looked at that, I was like, wow, that's such a Bears way to win. Like, take the ball out of Trubisky's hands and just let the defense ride. Yeah, so one of the most crazy games stat lines I've ever seen for sure. He forced 4 fumbles in the game, recovered 2. Like, that defense is just, I think you said it last year, he's probably the most difficult defense to play against as far as like just pure, the front seven is just pure power, just gonna overpower everyone pretty much. Yeah, it's just crazy stat line. Mike Davis had a good game, 93 yards for him. Against a great user in Mo, who, I think he's still doing well this year, but maybe not quite up to his old standards. But still a great user and stuff. So to be able to pull out a win like that, it just shows the grit that Smash has with that Bears team, and it shows why he's back to 7-3 after I think he had like a 1-3 start to the season.
Yep, super crazy game. The Seahawks have a rookie right tackle. It looks like, right tackle Johnny Worthington. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't read his last name today, but 6 sacks. He allowed 6 sacks from the Chicago Bears. You mix that in with 40 yards passing on 5 of 10. That's just crazy. This was a crazy game. Raekwon Smith, 13 tackles on the day. Kyle Fuller had 10 tackles. Mack had 9. It's just, these are one of those really super crazy games that you don't expect to that you just don't expect to see. Sorry, our buddy Dwayne is on, but he's at work, which is why he couldn't join us. So I was reading the chat. It's so hard for me to do the show and read the chat sometimes. I'm going to go to, I thought it was week 11. Let me, boom, 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 boom. Where are we at? I know it's here. Here it is. Chiefs and Patriots. The Chiefs fall to the Patriots 21-20. This was a really good game from a Chiefs team who I played last night, and stupid game. Like, I know there was a couple of you watching. I threw a pick with 6 seconds left on like the 50-yard line. I was trying to push the middle of the field, and 84th throwing power, Teddy Bridgewater couldn't make that throw. It was stupid on me. I took the chance because I didn't think there'd be enough time to do anything. Some way, somehow, he's able to run a play and take a timeout with 1 second left. It was the longest 1 second I'd ever seen in my life. I froze the kicker, and he still buried a 54 long in the wind field goal to win the game. So I've got like firsthand knowledge of these Chiefs, and they played the Patriots, and he told me about this game, and so this is why I picked this game. 101 rushing yards for the Patriots to only 76 rushing yards, but 217 passing yards from Mahomes. And I can tell you right now, I've never played against Mahomes. I know he's a guy that I heard was tradable, but he's going to have a big fat contract. I know the Chiefs are trying to figure that out with him right now. I can say that this dude is legit, and I know that there are guys out there like complaining about paying young stud quarterbacks, but I'd pay this guy all day long. I would figure it out. Like he is a difference maker in winning and losing games, in the throws that he can make, in the running that he can do. Like, he's amazing. I would take him on my team in any second that I had an opportunity to. But 416 total yards for the Patriots, 359 total yards for the Chiefs. The Chiefs even had a 4th down conversion, but the 3rd down conversions were kind of low in this game. Only 5 for the Patriots, 3 for the Chiefs, who were very good on 3rd down versus me, almost unstoppable. Patrick Mahomes, 116.4 quarterback rating. No touchdowns, but no interceptions. Brady with 2 touchdowns and only 1 pick. So both of these guys were pretty spot on and kind of slinging it all over the place. 77% completion percentage for Mahomes, 65 for the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, who still in his old age is making plays happen left and right. On the other side, on the rushing game, though, you get Joe Mixon, 11 attempts, 59 yards. White, 9 for 58. So nothing that really sticks out to you, even though White had a pretty good day average-wise, 6.4 average, only 1 touchdown the day. You would figure, like, feed that guy. Like, he's having a good day, continue to feed him. But the same can be said for Joe Mixon, who averaged 5.4 but only had 11 carries. Tyreek Hill, again, super legit guy, 5 receptions, 114 yards. N'Keal Harry, he's a guy that I've never really heard of, from Arizona State, 5 receptions, 100 yards. Watkins, who played a really great game against me, 4 for 69. So all these guys having really big days catching the ball. And then we're seeing a lot of sacks again. It seemed to kind of figure itself out, but now guys are maybe holding on to the ball too long, not slide protecting. Like, you got to keep people in, you got to slide protect, you got to do those things this game, and you have to know when you have a player being dominated and getting rid of the ball. And so guys aren't getting rid of the ball as often as they should be. So Cannon gave up 5 sacks. Here's a name, Dufresne Tarif. 3 sacks. Wynn gave up a sack. Garnett gave up a sack. Glenn gave up a sack. So lots of sacks coming on that side of the ball. And this is how this game went down. It came down to the Chiefs scoring a game-tying touchdown. All they had to do was kick the extra point with time expiring. The Patriots freeze the kicker on the extra point. He shanks it. He misses the extra point and loses the game. But yet in my game, I froze him and he buries a 54-yarder into the wind with no problem. So just a crazy game. Speaks for the Chiefs had 5 sacks. Reese for the Patriots had 3 sacks. So this was just like a crazy back and forth game between you two. So go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, it was funny. I started this game so bad. He got out to an early 14-point lead. I couldn't do anything. I think I tried rushing on third down a couple of times, and each time his defensive line just destroyed me. So that's when you see the rushing totals for my team. I kind of just got away from the rush in this. I wouldn't say I got totally away from the rush, but I started rushing much less in the second half because I was just getting dominated at the point of attack. And he was up 14-0, played really well. That speaks is his import. I think 5 sacks. He's not a import even, but he's a really good player anyways. He dominated Marcus Cannon, who has been pretty much the weak point of my offensive line every time I play. I don't know what I got to do about him, but no, it was a fun game. I kind of shut him down in the second half, took away Hill. He started going to other receivers, but he wasn't getting the same explosive plays, so that kind of slowed his offense down, allowed me to get back in the game. I took that 14-point lead at the end, and his last drive to tie the game up, or to almost tie the game up, was crazy. Like, he was just whipping the ball all over the field, wound up running it in one of those plays where you think your defensive line has the quarterback, and he just somehow powers through and gets in. And then, like you say, I froze him at the end and was able to squeak out the win to get me to 7-3 on the season. But this was one of my more fun games. I've had a ton of them recently where I think I played like 4 or 5 straight games where it's been decided by less than a touchdown each. So it's been fun lately, and that was definitely one of the more fun games. Like you say about Mahomes, though, I'd definitely pay that guy. You're not going to replace him at any point. And, he's the only quarterback I've played all year where I'm, legitimately, worried about every single throw on the field because he can make it. And, it's a pretty fun team to play against just from all the different kinds of things they can do. So it was a really good game.
Yeah, you pay that man. Take it from somebody who's playing with Teddy Bridgewater. You pay that man, and you make sure that you pay that man. You figure it out on the back end. You just have to, because he is an absolute freak of a stud. All right, let's talk about some big matchups. I know that we're starting to turn the corner and start to think about the playoffs. There's a lot of big games that are coming up. So what's the one game maybe in week 12, 13, 14, man, we can even squeeze it out to 15 that's coming up in the next couple of advances that you think is going to be a big matchup that's going to carry a lot of weight and maybe a game that really needs to be checked out?
Well, for me, it's week 14 on the Sunday night game, Redskins versus Falcons. Top 2 teams in the NFC. I think we got the Falcons are obviously a dominant team. They're just destroying people this year. But on the other side there, we got Denbrew, who is probably one of the top game planners. He's obviously playing really well, 9-1. I'm excited. I think if anyone has a chance of being the Falcons, it's a guy like Denbrew who can game plan and figure something out for that team, because you're not going to be able to go on the field and just be a better team than the Falcons. You definitely got to have a game plan with it, and I do think that Week 14 matchup might be our best chance of seeing the Falcons fall this season. So I'm really excited for that one, and that's I know both of us have a ton of respect for how Denbrew sets his team up each season and for each game specifically, and I'm excited to watch him and D-Money go at it there.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of the top coaches in the league. Number 1, the Falcons are just dominant. We'll get to them a little bit later, but the Redskins are going to, if there is a weakness, if there is an opportunity there to beat them, and we're going to talk about our ideas of how you beat the Falcons, but if there's an opportunity and a weakness that the Falcons showed, the Redskins are going to find it. and he's going to try to exploit it. And he just plays so steady, and he finds weak holes that you have in your team, and he really game plans around trying to attack those. And he showed that on our All 22 podcast that we did a couple months ago now. But if you haven't seen that, he gives his tips and tricks on how you can game plan and what you should be looking for whenever you play teams like this. And so go check that out. I'm going to go to week 13, and I'm going to go, let's see if I can find it here. It is week 13, isn't it? Now I'm starting to forget. No, it's not. The Seahawks and Giants were going to be one of those games. I thought that was going to be an excellent game, and now I got to find it because I don't have records right here in front of me. That's the sucky part about this. Let me make sure I got my game because I know I had it, and I was like, yeah, that's the game I'm going with. This is terrible podcasting, but this is what happens when you do it early in the morning, and then you forget, oh, yeah, that was the thing I was supposed to do. Oh, there it is. It's week 14. So, week 14, Seahawks and Giants, I think, is going to be a good one. That was the first matchup that I was going to go with. I think the Seahawks have stumbled, but they have an opportunity to turn things around here. But we're going to go to week number 14, and it's going to be right here, the Monday night game, Chargers versus Jets. This is going to be a spectacular team. The Chargers are sitting, I think right now they're at 9-1, and they were in the OMFL Bowl last year. A surprise team, at least for me. Look, Colin has always been a really great player, but been a player that I just didn't think was a bowl player, right? I think he would go deep in the playoff, but man, this guy turned it around, turned it on. Bosa is a freak for him. He's got a firepower of an offense, and he's going to play in the Jets, who I think have only lost 2 or 3 games, who's fighting to make sure that he's still relevant in the AFC. He plays really amazing defense. He's the best DB user that we have in our league. He's kind of the grandfather of all DB users here. He kind of started that whole ritual of guys wanting to try to use the DB. This is going to be a hell of a matchup of strength versus strength, and we're really going to see who is in the top of the AFC. Is it going to be the Chargers? You still got the Colts out there, of course, and the Patriots. There's still some very good teams, but this is going to be a matchup between 2 of the top teams in the AFC that I think is going to carry a lot of weight by the time we get to week 14, because for seeding, it's going to lay out who's going to fall where, who's going to match up against who's going to be at the road, who's going to be at home, and what are those matchups going to look like in the AFC, because it could make all the difference in the world between playing at home and winning a close game on a last-second field goal, or having to go on the road and play maybe in the snow, maybe play in the cold. That's going to be a really, really tough game. So I think the Chargers and Jets are going to be the game to watch for, and it's going to be a really, really good game. Speaking of good games, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, those 2 guys this cycle so far have been kind of my rivals. I think the Chargers eliminated me from the playoffs and beat me once this year already. And then Cly, obviously, me and him have been fighting for the AFC East all cycle. And like you say, it's complete clash of styles, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. I think the Jets have the advantage because I think his defense is very reliable. But, I think Colin is also a guy that's going to be able to, if there's anyone that's going to be able to light up that Jets defense, it's going to be Colin, because that offense he has is insanely talented.
No, I completely agree with you. And we're going to turn the corner a little bit and talk about a team that isn't playing so well. This has become a hot button topic here in the OMFL. Now, many seasons ago, D-Money decided to tank, and he got away with it, mainly because I didn't think he would actually tank, and didn't stop it, and he tanked, and he got the number 1 pick, and he built this really super amazing team that he's still kind of living on a little bit today. And then all of a sudden the Bengals started to struggle, and the Bengals have always been one of our top AFC teams, a team that you had to watch for, that you knew was going to be in the playoffs, a team that you knew was going to be one of the top teams, that was always going to be tough and a tough out. He's been in a couple of different OMFL bowls here, even won a couple. And then all of a sudden, we get into this season and the joke is made that he's tanking. He puts a profile picture of a tank. He has not won a game. He's 0-10. And I had to message him and I had to have like that uncomfortable conversation that I still haven't followed up on because I've been really busy. But he says he's not tanking. He says he has moved to a new type of offense because he doesn't have the same type of quarterback and same type of playmakers. I think he really thought that that Hill from the Saints, Taysom Hill, was going to be a plug-and-play quarterback, and I think he's found out that Taysom is not a plug-and-play quarterback. I mean, a gimmicky quarterback that maybe you can get a couple plays out of, but with 81 throwing power and like in the 60s accuracy, it's really he's really hard to have. And so anyway, he's had to move to Big Ben. He's had to move his offense. And he says he's still struggling, trying to figure it out, and that he really is trying. But it's hard to say that you're trying when you haven't even won one game, when you're a top AFC team, and you have the picture and joke of a tank. That's a really bad mixture. And even if you really are trying, then that looks really bad. And so anyway, yeah, as like guys are saying in the chat, he is too good of a team to not at least win one game. So I want to talk about the Bengals. Where has it gone wrong for them, and what are your ideas about, do you think he's tanking, or do you think that there's a real struggle here for the Cincinnati Bengals?
First of all, I think I can kind of buy into his new offensive reasoning there. I think he brought in Ben Roethlisberger, got rid of Joe Mixon this season. I played against him. We had a really close game, actually. I think I won by 1 point earlier this season. But yeah, I do notice that, I think Ben isn't quite as good as he thought he'd be. I know he's been missing lots of passes. He has only 58% completion percentage, and I feel like no matter what, whether you're trying to win or if you're not trying to win, like if you're at 58%, it's hard to win. Like, that's just not good quarterback numbers. And then C.J. Anderson only averaging 3.5 yards per carry. I think, maybe he's. It's hard to say if someone's tanking, but I don't think he came into the season intending to tank. I think it's just not worked out for him. Whatever he tried with that offense, like you say, he brought in Taysom Hill. I think he brought in Taysom Hill to try to play more, and I don't think he's been able to. But, maybe he started off bad, and maybe he's just not putting the full foot forward now. I don't know. I've seen he has like 6 points again in some games. So I think maybe, I think at some point, lots of teams, even if it's not your original plan to tank, I think, if you start out like, say it goes 0-6 to start out, like maybe you're not trying as hard to win. Maybe you're playing more young guys who, on this game, as we know, like say he's playing Elijah Holyfield more often, like he's just not as good of a running back as you need. So I don't know. For me, I don't think he intended to tank, but I think maybe at this point in time he's starting to see that he probably needs a different quarterback for next year and stuff, and maybe, heading down that road.
Yeah, I think tanking is one of those things that it's easier to look back on and like point and go, oh, I think that's tanking. He hasn't won a game, blah, blah, blah. I think you do yourself no favors whenever you put your profile photo as a tank and you make jokes about tanking. You do yourself zero favors there, and there's actually, like, it's not funny. Like, I know it's meant to be funny and we're trying to be funny, but, like, here's the fine line, right? Like, it's like, are we taking it too serious? If he does tank, he's the guy that's got to go through, 16 weeks of an hour and 10 minutes a day, 16 different times trying not to win. That can't be fun. And some of me is like, if a guy wants to pay that price and like he wants to do that, then whatever. Like, you got bigger issues than not winning a game. Like,
yeah.
But then I did experience, right, for somebody who has to play the Falcons, who had to play him after he tanked, and to go play that team that he put together, it was like, oh, this is not fun, and we should have done something about this. I would also argue tanking in Madden 19 is not tanking in Madden 20. Those rosters are different. Those rookie draft classes are different, and I just don't know that tanking has the same benefit that it does in this Madden than it did last Madden. I think where it went wrong, number one, is Big Ben, right? Like, you're one of the few guys who, with an aging quarterback, is still playing at a very high level with Tom Brady. But most of us with aging quarterbacks, I had Drew Brees last year. He was super accurate. I complained about him, and I would never complain about him because I've got Teddy Bridgewater, and I know what it's like to be on the other side of that fence now. But I would just say that, that's a real talent to have, to understand that. Look, with Teddy, he's got 84 throwing power, and it took me half a season to figure out, how do I play with this guy? And I'm still like trying to make throws that, last Madden with Jared Goff I could make, that this Madden you just can't make. And you have to completely change your game plan. You have to change the routes that you run. Like I run very few fly routes. I run very few, or 9 routes, whatever you want to call them. I run very few, deep post routes, just because Teddy doesn't have the arm. And for me to throw those routes, they have to be pretty wide open. In my game last night, I had a 15-yard gap on the cornerback. Teddy throws it deep. Mike Thomas has to wait on the ball for literally like 3 seconds. Cornerback makes up ground, knocks it away. It would have been an easy touchdown with anyone with half an arm. Could make it. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say, playing with Big Ben is completely different, and it takes some getting used to, and you do have to play different with him. 13 touchdowns to 13 interceptions is not great, but it's not terrible. I've seen way worse numbers. He's only got a little over 2,000 yards, which is, again, not great, but I've seen way worse. So he's not having a terrible season with him. The other two things that really stuck out with me are C.J. Anderson. I don't know why you get rid of, Joe Mixon. I think that you got to have some type of really good running back, and you can see both his guys are averaging under 4 yards a carry. 2 touchdowns as his leading running back, and so there's some real struggles there with his running game, and it goes back to his offensive line. I mean, if we look at the sacks given up, every single one of his guys have given up 3 or more sacks. His right guard, 6 sacks. His right tackle, 5. His center, 5. So that's pressure right up the middle, which is, like, if he's getting sacks from up the middle, you know that his offensive linemen are also giving up big tackles for loss in the backfield from his running back, which is why those averages are so low. Left tackle, 4 sacks. Left guard, 3 sacks. And so the right side and center of his offensive line has really, really struggled. Big Ben has not had a spectacular season. He's not Mariota. He's not going to make all these really amazing throws. And his running backs have really, really struggled with trying to make any plays at all. So overall, I think that's where his problems start, is the offensive line. I think his defense is pretty good. And I think the argument that's being made from people, he hasn't won one game. And he is really talented. And I think even with a bad team, I would expect him to win 1 to 3 to 4 games, right? Somewhere in that, even if you're having the worst season of all worst seasons. And so I do understand that argument. I think the other side of the argument is, look, I know D-Money's on, and I have a lot of respect for D-Money. D-Money and I have had this conversation, but he earned a lot of couth with me this past offseason because he put in lots of hours with me grinding to get the league ready, to get the roster ready, to get things figured out for the OMFL, and that earned a lot of weight with me. But D-Money was the master at keeping games close to where he wasn't just getting himself blown out every week, but he also wasn't trying to win. And I agree with you, like, there does come a point where it's like, okay, why would I pedal to the metal? right? Because it actually doesn't help anything, right? It doesn't help your team get better by pedaling to the metal and winning 3 games in week 13 through 16 and maybe getting picked number 3 through 5 instead of like just start a bunch of backups, start a bunch of young players that gets XP, that builds for the future. Maybe you'll lose some games and you'll get a higher draft pick. Like, that's just smart GMing. I think that's smart team building. So I think we are at the time of the season where it's like, is it tanking or is it just like, all right, my season's over, there's no way I can come back from this, I might as well start a bunch of young players. Look, I'm going to get there soon. I got lost last night after making a little bit of a run in the season, and if I lose another 3 or 4 players here, I'm going to start finding some areas where I can plug in young players. Like, I know I've got a linebacker that I'm not going to re-sign that's going to go away, so maybe I'm starting a younger player there since I know that aging linebacker is going to go away from my team and I need to get a younger player XP to build up and get him some playing time for next season. Like, that's a real thing that I think all of us have to go through and figure out. So I will say I do think he was tanking earlier. I think maybe not in week 1 through 5. I think maybe he was trying to figure his team out, couldn't figure it out, lost some tough games, then said, okay, screw it, let's try to for a high draft pick. And now he's to the point where he got called out on the tanking. He's probably going to put forth more effort. I expect him to win 2, maybe 3 games here, but I am in 100% agreement with you. I'm not pedaling to the metal. I'm not like going to go out and start freaking 5 wide in it and try to put up 40 points in every game. Like, there's no benefit in that for him. He needs a quarterback, he needs a running back, he needs offensive line. And that's my other argument about this team is that he's going to have to tank 2 or 3 seasons if he's going to rebuild this roster because it needs some serious help. And he's going to have to start at the offensive line. He's going to have to bring in a running back. He's going to have to find him a quarterback. And those are 3 very tough things. Running back probably pretty easy to find, but the offensive line and the quarterback, those are not easy to find. They're worth gold in this Madden. And, so I don't know how I just don't know how tanking is actually gonna help him and how that's gonna work out.
Yeah, I know everyone wants to say he's been tanking all season or whatever, but when we played earlier this year, like, we had a 3-point game. I just went and looked at my stats, and he, like you say, he has bad offensive line, he has bad quarterback play, but also his CB play isn't that great either. So, like, Tom Brady ripped him up when we played back in week 3 or whatever it was. And maybe like we've been saying, I think he kind of changed his mind about what he's doing. I would like to see, like, it would make sense to me if he's going to be playing like this. Like, why isn't he starting his rookie quarterback? Maybe that would make more sense. Not just for what he's doing, but like also like as he's planning for his future. Like, his rookie quarterback isn't too bad, normal dev, but like you can give him some play time, see what happens. Yeah, I don't think he ever intended to be a tanker this season. I think it just he's in a pretty tough division there in the AFC North with 3 other good players. I think he just had a terrible start to the year, and it's hard, like you say, it's hard to keep going when you start, 0-5, 0-6. Because I know definitely against me, he was playing to win, and every time I went on the field, I went and scored. So,
yeah, I would also say that, like, it's a fine line, right? Like, there is definitely a fine line, and I think the biggest misstep for him was the jokes, right? The jokes of the tanking. I just think that didn't help him out at all, and he didn't do himself any favors by saying things like that. And I also don't know that tanking is going to really help his team get where he wants to get. And so, I don't know. We'll see. I kind of put it out there to the guys who were watching the show just now. Did they think he was tanking or not tanking? So we'll see what people think.
But yeah, I'm totally with you on the draft thing. I don't think tanking is going to benefit your team. Like, I think the number 1 pick last year was a normal dev player, so it's like, and development traits is the most important thing right now when you're picking players. So I guess like you say, I mean, it's not necessarily anything that's going to help you. So I don't see it really benefiting him more than finishing 5-11 would be.
And I'd also say that the one thing he said to me that I'm calling BS on is he tried to sell me on I'm an average player. Like at the very beginning, he apologized. He's like, I knew this was coming. It's my fault for the joke. And people made a joke about his real life Cincinnati Bengals. He is a Cincinnati Bengals fan, tanking for Tua. And so I think it's a bad combination of a bunch of things. But part of that was he tried to sell me on, guys think I'm a top player. I'm just an average player. I've gotten lucky in the division I'm in. I'm going to call BS on that part of what he tried to sell me on. I'm not buying that at all. That's a crap soup. You got to try to sell somebody else because you're a top player. You've been a contender in the AFC for a long time. And, I probably would expect you to win 2 or 3 games at least. And I had the same conversation with D-Money, right? It's the 0 wins. I think people have a bigger problem with the 0 wins than they do the tanking for a high draft pick. And that was my conversation with the Falcons when he tanked is like you would have won at least 1 game, at minimum probably 3 or 4 games, but at least 1, and he won 0. So yeah, I think that's the bigger problem here. Speaking of a tanking team, let's go to the Atlanta Falcons, who have been a monster ever since his tanking season, and I think has won 90% of the OMFL bowls since that season. I think he's won. I think he's on number 4 since then. He won 3 of. I think he won 4 of the 5 last Madden, and he's already won the first one here. And so, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons and how do you stop the Atlanta Falcons? What is the game plan? Where's the weaknesses? Anybody going to beat this team? Because right now, he's just absolutely mauling folks, including like a 35-9 or 6 or 3 game against the Los Angeles, I always forget, the Los Angeles Chargers a couple of weeks ago. So how do you beat the Atlanta Falcons?
That is a good question, my friend. I don't know what you can do. This team is so good on defense. Like, that's the thing. That's where you got to start. You got to find a way to put up points against this team. They got 3 cornerbacks who, or 4 cornerbacks who probably started on any team. So that right there is a big problem. He has good coverage, safeties. That's where it starts for the Falcons. Is they're not going to let you pass on them. I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched a whole lot of Falcons games this season in particular, but I know, just looking at ratings wise, the run defense doesn't look like it'd be necessarily the most difficult to run on. He has some good players there, but I think you can, like, defensive line looks pretty weak, so I think you could run up the middle against this team. Guys will have to definitely be patient. I think if you're going to beat the Falcons, you want to probably win like a 21-14 game or 14-10, something like that, low scoring. Anyone that's trying to make this game where you're going to like if your game plan is to go in there and put up 40 points, I think you're going to have a hard time.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think Matt Ryan offensively is the only real weak point. Like, he has low throw power. Like, but I mean, he's so accurate. The guys he's throwing to are all unreal players. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and Austin Hooper, who pretty much, if you look at their stats, they pretty much have all the receptions so far this season. But it's the run game. It's what he can do off the run game. So you got to find a way to slow that down, and then also, like I say, you want to run the ball yourself. I don't have like a whole lot of game film D money right now this season, but just looking at the roster, looking at the statistics, that's the way I would be approaching this game. Is you got to be patient with the run game and just be pounding the ball up the middle, and hopefully you'll be able to get a couple long runs or something like that. But it's not easy, obviously, and his offense is going to put pressure on you to score more, and I think that's where guys get in trouble against those DBs. So, you get more experience against him than I do, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are too.
Yeah, I have no answers. He's one of the few guys that I played where I truly feel like I can't even compete with him. Dwayne is another that every time I stepped on the field, I felt like I can't even compete with this guy. Like it's not even a game, and zero enjoyment of playing those guys. I think I beat Dwayne like twice out of like 15 tries, and he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks after that. So D-Money, I haven't even come close. I remember playing D-Money back in like Madden 14, 15, something like that, in the old OMFL that we were both a part of. And I remember he was blowing everybody out there, and everybody, look, when you win as often as he wins, people start looking for reasons. They start micro breaking up your game and like calling you a cheeser, calling you a cheater, trying to find ways that you're bending or breaking the rules. And it's tough. And everyone who's been here and who's won a lot, outside of maybe Dwayne, and even Dwayne's had some shots taken across his bow, but like Ducks and Moe's had some issues before in the past. Like anyone who wins a whole lot here is going to have people break down their game. But anyway, I say that I played him and had a really close, like it was one of the funnest games I'd ever played. I was playing like a sub game. I was like the Broncos. I don't even remember who he was then. And it was just like a fun back and forth. And it was one of the best games I ever played. So when I came here and I knew he was looking for a place to play, I asked him to come. And now I wish I couldn't have, because this guy is just so dominant. You have to play absolutely perfect versus him. And he does things that are confusing. Look, his offensive line, his starters have given up 10 sacks. We're in freaking week 12. His starting offensive line has given up less sacks than weeks that we are in currently. Like, that's mind-blowing of a stat to me that I don't think anybody else is probably even close. Maybe Dwayne, because he doesn't throw the ball all that often. But then you look at his offensive line, right? I'm kind of showing his roster right now. 82 overall left tackle, 75 overall left guard, 89 overall center, really good center, 80 right guard, 73 right tackle. That combination of players has given up 10 sacks. I can't even wrap my brain around how do you make that happen. And he gets the ball out. He doesn't take a whole lot of sacks. He runs the ball exceptionally well. Look, he's receivers, right? We know that Jones and Ridley are his top two guys, and they get all the catches. Like, he hasn't even needed Ridley this season, because I've seen him. He can turn it on with Ridley really, really quick, and before you know it, Ridley's got 85 catches and 2,000 yards. But he's like proving a point that Jones, even at 31, can get it done. And Jones is an unstoppable force. Like, the dude is stupid. Like, no matter what, you could double coverage that guy. You can use or manually cover him, and he's still making catches over you. You look at his running game, right? He's got a really good fullback in Marquise Williams. 65 overall, so I guess his overall is not that great, but most fullbacks are not. But the guy's got speed, he's got strength at 87, and then his halfbacks, Freeman and Smith, are monsters. Like, he can play. If you shut down Freeman some way, somehow, I mean, Smith is averaging, I think, 5.8 yards a carry. Even his last guy, Brian Hill, who is 66 overall, 88 speed, is averaging like 5.2 yards a carry. Like, how is that offensive line that we just talked about able to only give up 10 sacks and giving up like over 1,000 yards of rushing to all four of these guys? Not just one, but all four of these guys are carrying the ball. And then you talked about it, Matt Ryan. I mean, he's 35 years old. He's got 88 throwing power, which is pretty good in this Madden. It's better than Breeze. He's just so effective and efficient with Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt's got 97 short accuracy, 94 medium, 92 deep. So he can put the ball just about anywhere that you want the ball. You got those speedy receivers. And we haven't even talked about the defense. 69 overall left end. 64 overall right end. Grady Jarrett, who's a stud, who I think I single-handedly put in the Pro Bowl every single season, 89 overall. But after that, 72, 72, 71. Those guys have like a combined 28, 29 sacks, like almost 30 sacks, like somewhere in that number. Like those guys, like how are you doing that? Like, and it comes down to play calling. You cannot blitz this dude. In my opinion, when you play him, you have to play a little bit more zone than man. You're going to have to manually control the middle of the field. You're going to have to roam with a safety or a linebacker because somewhere in there you're going to have to take away the deep post, take away the crossers. But he mixes it up, man. And this is the tough part about him is like you look at his stats and you're like, well, he doesn't abuse the tight end. I'm going to play zone. I'm going to take away the middle of the field. He'll start freaking dragging you with the tight end. He's on right now, so it's like I can't give away too many tips about how I'm going to attack him because he'll just find another way. And that's the frustrating part about him is he's so well-rounded. He can attack you from a variety of different ways. And he and I had this conversation. He's like, I'm not some Madden savant. And I'm like, well, it sure freaking feels like it. And that's the tough part is like, when you talk to him about it, it's like he almost doesn't try. He just gets in there, calls plays, and it just magically works. It's kind of like watching D. Wayne run the ball. You're like, I call the exact same plays and get negative 2 yards. D. Wayne calls that play and gets 15 yards out of it. D Money's the exact same way of like the exact same calls that you're making, he's making, but they just work better for him. Jordan Evans, 70 overall, left outside linebacker. Now, his middle linebackers are really good. Deion Jones, LSU kid, 94 overall. Campbell, 79. Olukin, 78. And then his right outside linebacker is Lawson, who I think was, his import was Powell. And then you talked about his cornerbacks, right? Powell, 97 overall. Trufant, 90 overall. Sheffield, 81 overall. And Williams, 79 overall. All of these guys super young. All of these guys playmakers. And it's you can't pass the ball on him. So you got to run the ball. But then you got Grady Jackson who's throwing off your center and attacking you in the middle. It's like he's built the perfect team, and I don't even know how. Like, I can't even figure it out. He's got shutdown cornerbacks all across the field. He plays safety. That's the one thing about his game that isn't his fault. It's a Madden thing, but it does drive me insane, is that he plays safety, and if you even get him to bite on a play action, Madden gives all users a boost. And so if you hit that speed burst, a player will, unhuman-like be able to make up speed very quickly. And so I've had several plays against him where you make him bite up, 10 yards sometimes on a play action. And in real life, that's game over. Like if you bite up that far, you're not recovering. I don't care who you're playing. You're going to get burnt. If your cornerback gets burnt, you're going to get burnt on a 9 route or a post route all day long. He does it. Because of the speed burst, he can quickly make that up with his great safeties that he has and go make a play on the ball. So he's got Colvin back here, 89 speed, Campbell, 92 speed, Oliver, 90 speed, and then his safeties, 88, 93, 93. So he's got playmakers all across the field for him, and he just is able to make plays like crazy. And the part about me that I can't get, number one, built his team very strong up the middle, and so you've got a very strong defensive tackle. You got very strong middle linebackers, so he's able to make plays up the middle. He plays safety, so with those speed and playmakers, he's able to make plays on post routes and corner or crossing routes and even drag routes a lot of times. And then his offensive line, that's the part about it I can't figure out. Like, you should be able to dominate that offensive line with a pass rush or even with blitz, but I'm telling you, if you blitz the Falcons, you're going to get burnt every time. I've gotten to where I don't blitz him hardly at all, maybe once or twice a game. And so he can sit back there in the pocket and wait for those deep plays to open up. Or if you blitz him, he's going to get the ball out quick and you have no shot. So, like, I don't know how you beat him. To me, you have to shut down his running game. You got to make him one-dimensional. And you got to have also dual starting cornerbacks that can match up with those two receivers in Jones and in his other guy who's Ridley. You got to be able to match up with both of those guys. And so to me, you got to either play linebacker or safety. You got to control the middle of the field. You got to completely shut down his run. You better hope you get 3 to 5 sacks on him and get a couple turnovers. And then on offense, you better freaking eat the clock. You better be running the ball, picking up first down, super high efficiency. You're probably going to need to be in the 60 to 80% on third down. And you better be just eating up clock and keeping the ball in the offensive hands. That's the only way to beat this team, and then hope that you get some turnovers some way, somehow. No follow-up? I stunned you?
I don't know. It's like you say, it's a really tough matchup. I think the game plan you just mentioned is the only way to really, have a chance. The other thing is, like, if you really want to be risky or you have a lot of confidence with your quarterback, just go in there and try to just destroy him. Like, I don't know how many times anyone's been able to put up a ton of points early on and make him one-dimensional, like you say, but if you can score like a touchdown in your first 2 or 3 drives, I don't know if that changes his game plan at all. But, you got to have a lot of confidence in your team to do that. But, it's he has, like, Takaris McKinley and Carl Lawson on the edges. Like, those two guys are both great pass rushers. Like, it's such a hard team. There's no, like I say, you look at this defensive line, that's the only real weakness of the team as far as ratings go. But they're obviously making it work somehow. So, what can you do? You got to have a good game plan and execute, pretty much. That's all you can hope for.
Yeah, it drives me insane. My bad, sorry. It was my turn to talk, and I couldn't mute myself because Blue stopped talking on me, so I had to sneeze. My bad. I would say that he plays very consistent. He's one of the most consistent play callers that I have a hard time figuring out any type of rhythm or repetitious or things that he leans on. I've got 1 or 2 that he does, but even then he changes those up pretty well. And his team is just outstanding. So I did not pause. I should have done that. It's a habit I'm trying to get myself into, but I didn't pause to talk about our partners. So before we get to the mailbag, let me talk about a couple of our partners here. Daddy leagues. If you're a Madden league and you don't have daddy leagues, you're doing your league a disservice. We have one of the best daddy leagues websites out there. Let's see if I can show. Yeah, this is our daddy leagues website right here. I love our page. I think it really works well for us. It's got all the stats. It's got just some cool stuff. And so if you're in the OMFL and you don't use daddy leagues, then I question why you're in the OMFL, because I know that everyone here uses it. It is like such a key to managing your roster, to knowing what's up and coming, and just taking control of your team. So go support daddyleagues.com and make sure that if you ever have a league here or you want a league, that Daddy Leagues is a must-have. And then our buddies Matt at League Crawler. I am a big fan of Matt and what he's created. If you don't have a League Crawler profile, take 5 minutes and go create one, and then go find the OMFL, the TFL, the NBC, the PFFL, the PFL. Is that all of them? Oh, and the Deuce, duh. How did I forget about the Deuce for a second there? Go find all of them, give them some ratings, leave some comments, because it is the place where PlayStation and Xbox owners go and they look for a league. Even help our buddies over at Soden out, give them a ranking and a comment. But go and support what we're doing there and support what Matt's created. If you're an owner of a league and you're looking for owners, you can go and find people there. You can rate them and see what they're a part of. And there's also now a league crawler a Discord page that you can be a part of. And so League Crawler, big fans of him. He's always been big supporters of us, and we've both been League of the Year for League Crawler and for Daddy Leagues, and I just really appreciate Matt. And of course, our buddies over at Soden Bowl. So SodenBowl.com, there are Xbox One partners. So anyone who comes to us that wants to play Xbox, we kind of send them over to Soden. And I know a few guys here have played with Soden and played with those guys over there. He's been putting out tons of content. You'll see him very active in our chat from time to time, promoting a lot of their really great graphics. They have a guy that they're connected with. I don't know if he plays there or if it's just a partnership, but it's a guy that has done some graphics for us that just does these amazing graphics that I wish I had time to help create. And so they're just putting out tons of really super high quality content to rival some of the best stuff that's out there. So go check out Soden, follow them on Twitter, go subscribe to their page. They're big supporters of us. And then finally, our buddy Shopmaster. Go follow him on Twitter. Go look at his website. Go to his YouTube page and give him a subscribe. He's one of the nicer guys that's out there. I've had a run-in with plenty of like the top names that are out there. We've invited them to come and be a part of what we do, and either A, get ignored, or B, they just think way too highly of themselves. That's not Shop. Shop is just like a super down-to-earth, super cool guy who's just pumping out great content for 2K and for Madden. So do us a favor, go support him by giving him a subscribe. So now it's time to get to some owner-submitted questions. I have not seen these. I pumped this out yesterday afternoon, and so there was no real time to go and see these. So we're going to be winging it a little bit and see what this is all about. So here we go. Out of all the teams under 500, which teams do you see pushing back in the playoffs? Let me see if I can get a quick list of what those teams are, because I can pull this up on my phone. Let me see if I can get it to standings, league. Here we go. Here's the teams that he's talking about. So these teams would be, we'll start at the Titans and work our way down. Titans, Ravens, Buccaneers, Lions, Packers, Eagles, 49ers, Browns, Cardinals, Dolphins. It's probably it, because everybody else underneath there has 8 losses already, and I don't see how that's even possible. So your top teams in there are the Broncos at 5-5, Giants at 5-5, Texans at 5-5, Saints at 5-6, Chiefs at 5-6, Titans at 4-6, Ravens at 4-6, Bucks at 4-6, Lions at 4-6, Packers at 4-6, Eagles at 4-6, 49ers at 4-6, and then you start getting into some 3-7 teams, which I think would be really, really tough. So which of those teams, if any, do you think has the best chance to go ahead and make it run?
It's a tough question. There's a couple good teams in here. Geez. Who do you go? I'd really like to say I'd really like to say that the Eagles could get back into it. I know that they had a really slow start. He's always a good owner. The Ravens are another team. I think the Ravens are a team that I think they're just 2 back of their division lead. So that's a team, if they could turn it around, like they started off hot last year, they could get hot again. I think that's another team.
Yep.
I don't know who else. There's lots of good teams here in this middle pack, so it's hard to pick out any, because I think like the Chiefs can make a run, the Titans can definitely make a run, the Texans can make a run, the Giants are good, Broncos are good. Like everyone's a pretty good team. Like it's just who's going to be able to do it. I think for me, the Ravens and the Eagles are the 2 teams that I just, I think they both made the playoffs. No, Ravens barely made the or missed it last year, but I think that they both have the potential to go on a run and kind of get themselves back into it. But like I say, most of the teams in this conversation here are teams that I could easily see doing it themselves.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I like the Giants, the Texans, the Chiefs after playing them, the Titans, the Ravens, and even the Eagles in some form or fashion, even though the Eagles have really struggled and fallen off, and I can't figure out how. I mean, this was a team that I think was like 9-1, 10-1, 11-1. There's something crazy like that last season, and then stumbled in the playoffs, and now this season the wheels have fallen off. I'd say out of those teams, the Texans and Giants have the best chance, with the Chiefs really close behind them. I think the other teams have dug a little bit too large of a hole to be able to get out of, but the Giants have some big games coming up to be able to get out of that hole that they've dug, and then the Texans are right there at 5-5. They have the best opportunity. So it's a really good question from Little Cooch, our Eagles owner. All these guys with the wrong avatars. You need to go change your avatars. Dim Brew, our buddy who's here on the show with us, I think I'm going to refresh this to make sure, but it looks like we only got these 2 questions. He says, Atlanta is dominating on both sides of the ball. In his last 6 games, he's held his opponents to a total of 26 points. I can't even wrap my brain around that. He says, do you see anyone stopping this team from going undefeated, including the playoffs? I think we talked about that a little bit, but I'd love to hear if you think there are any teams. And then his second question is, would this be the first perfect season in the OMFL? I can answer that, no. I think we've had 3 other perfect seasons here. Not a ton, but when you've been around for 20 years, it happens. I think we've had, only 3 previous seasons. I don't have the records because in the transition from PC to PlayStation, we lost kind of some of the history, and then from PlayStation 3 to 4, we lost some of the history. So I don't have all the history. I've done a much better job of keeping it since we've been on PlayStation 4, but I know for sure we've had 3 other ones. What teams are out there that the Falcons are going to play that you think could be the team to beat them? I'll give you their schedule real quick. It is going to be, let's see how fast I can get this to come up. Here's their remaining schedule. They have the Broncos, who are 5-5, the Bears at 7-3. They have the Redskins at 9-1, the Panthers at 2-8, the Chiefs at 5-6, and then sadly my Saints to finish up the season at 5-6. Any of those teams that you think could knock them off, or do you see them going all the way?
Well, I think the Bears and the Redskins back-to-back their weeks 13 and 14 both have a decent chance. The Bears with that awesome defense is going to be an interesting challenge, I think, for D-Money. I think, it's going to be hard for Trubisky to put up, like, if the Bears defense doesn't play, shut down ball, it's going to be hard for Trubisky and them to move the ball. But I think the Bears, have a formula with that defense to, keep it low scoring. Like I say, that's probably the way you have to beat the Falcons, is keep it low scoring. So I think they got a chance. I think the Redskins have a chance, as I mentioned before on our future games segment there. Denver's a great game planner. He's going to have to limit his turnovers. I know Haskins sometimes is a little erratic throwing, but, he definitely is a guy to watch for. I think the Chiefs are a team that could be dangerous because of their explosion. Like, probably the only team that has a receiver that can, get away from Pyle in the whole league. But yeah, do I think someone's going to beat him? It's hard to say yes, but I do think someone's going to beat him this year. I don't think he's going undefeated. I think whether it's in the playoffs or the regular season, I think someone's going to do it. If I get to the Super Bowl and it's against him, I guarantee I'll win. But, I got to get there first. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think someone's going to beat him this year. I think once we get down to it, people are going to start watching film and start looking for things that they could start, taking advantage of. Because, I don't know exactly how everyone game plans against him, but my guess is that lots of people are kind of just, saying, oh, it's a game against D-Money, let's just go run our offense. They're not necessarily, especially recently, I don't think anyone's necessarily quite putting in the same effort that they will at playoff time, because, it's just hard to get up for a game where you think you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But I do think someone's going to beat him this year. I don't think he's going. Whether or not if it's in the playoffs or not, like maybe he'll win the Super Bowl still. But I think someone's going to find a way to beat him.
I don't think anyone's going to beat him. I think the two teams that have the best chances, actually 3 teams. 3 teams. 2 on his current schedule. So if he loses in the regular season, the only 2 teams I think that even remotely have a best shot would be, number 1, the Chiefs, because of what you said. I think he's got the players. Mahomes is a monster. Hill's a monster. I just think that defense is not going to be able to keep up. That defense is not going to stop the Falcons. Can his offense keep pace and not turn the ball over? I have my doubts. I think that Massimo sometimes will push it and will often turn the ball over. If you turn the ball over against the Falcons, it's game over. You can hang it up. I'd also say that the Redskins are my other team. We talked about that when we talked about the Falcons earlier and talked about some of our top teams. I think the Redskins will game plan better than anybody, and because of that, I think he clearly has the best shot to beat the Falcons. So I think the Chiefs from talent-wise, I think the Redskins from game planning, and then last, I think it would be a playoff team like the Seahawks, right? And I know that the Seahawks have struggled, but when Mo is on, Mo is unbelievable, and Mo plays very efficient with his quarterback and with his offense. He can run the ball. He can eat the clock away. So there's a lot of really good things that the Seahawks and Mo can do. And then, of course, look, when you get to the bowl game, you never know what's going to happen. He could face you and the Patriots. He could face Colin again and the Chargers. Now, they didn't work out so well for Colin and the Chargers earlier this season, but we've seen what happened in the bowl game. He could face Dwayne and his Colts. And all of those teams, I think, run the ball really well, play good defense, and so I personally don't think he'll lose. I think he'll win another bowl game, and then people are going to start chirping to get rid of him because it happens. Nobody loves to be dominated every single season, and none of us, including me, enjoy the non-competitive balance of a Super Bowl champion every single season. But I think he's playing at a different level. And I didn't think he could go to a different level after Madden 19, but clearly he is playing at a different level. And I just don't. I don't think anybody's going to be able to compete with him. So let's wrap the show up, man. Let's put a little bow on it. We've had a lot of people in and out, a lot of talking here in the chat, so it's been good to see everybody. What are the flashing little stars? I don't know what the flashing little stars are all about. I don't know what's going on in this chat. They're kind of having their own little.
I think they're talking about those abilities that flash up and help your defense.
Yeah, you see those from time to time. If you play the Falcons, it's every play, but I think it's a little boost that people get. I don't know. I think people read more. I think that's more of a head thing. If you just play the game, just play the game, bro. Just forget about the only thing you need to worry about is when an X Factor gets activated. Go worry about that, right? Then you need a game plan for that. But outside of that, just go play ball and know where good players are. That's what I love about Denbrew and his scouting is if you know where the good players are and you game plan to take them out of it or at least hold them back. Then you can go play a game plan. But that's what I love about this Madden. You have to game plan. You have to roster build. You can't just throw any freaking player with speed out there and expect to dominate. You have to go find well-rounded players, and then you got to go make plays. And so, yeah, I think it's the best. So put a bow on the show for us, Mr. Bloop. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everybody being on the show. My old co-host, though, one's at work, and poor Maniac has been, playing sports Uber driver for like 6 months now, and hopefully they'll be able to rejoin us. But I appreciate you waking up early and helping me out. But put a bow on the show and where we are up to this point here in week number 12 of season 87, 88, 87.
87, yeah. Yeah, I just, we kind of touched on it earlier, but man, I think, on the intro, I think is when we were talking about it, but I've been really enjoying the game lately. I think the last, whatever the last patch was, has allowed for the best gameplay so far since release. So I've really enjoyed the game lately. I think the sliders are in a good spot. I think all my games recently have been really fun, win or lose. I got the Jets this week, Cardinals, Seahawks, Broncos, Rams, Raiders. Lots of those guys I've never played before, so that's exciting for me. First time, like Jets I played, obviously. I played Robin OMFL too, but everyone else I haven't played yet in this league, and I think that's really exciting. It's been, for me anyways, it's been a fun season. Obviously I'm a 7-3, so that helps my perspective a little bit, but it's been fun. I'm trying different things with my team. I got lots of picks coming up for the draft, and I've just been having a blast so far this season in OMFL as far as everything goes. Like all aspects of it, I've been enjoying myself, and it's been a really, really good season so far for me.
Yeah, it's been fun. Now, look, it's never fun to lose. It's never fun to, for me to struggle as much as I've been struggling. But at the same time, it has been fun to have to game plan and figure out how do you win with this type of quarterback. How do you have to change your offense to fit, low throwing power type of guy. He's got a little speed, but I haven't figured out the whole running with the quarterback thing because he always feels like he's running in mud. But it's been, I agree with you, the last few patches, I feel like the game does play pretty fun. And, for me personally, my offensive line feels like they're starting to play the way I've built them to play. My defense has been playing pretty well. I think I'm in top 5 in total yards. And so I'm having fun. And even though I lost a close one last night, and the game, again, we talked about that, right? The game does quirky things, but it's a video game. It's always going to have quirky things, and we can't let it distract us from the fact this is a good game. And I know people either love or hate X Factors. I personally love them because I think it adds an entirely new element to the league where you have to game plan for certain players. Certain players can really take over games as it should be, right? When Mahomes, got highlighted last night, he started to take over the game against me, and Mahomes in real life can do that. When some of these like linebackers or defensive ends start to take over games, well, you better do something about it. Like I played, who did I play the other day? The Broncos, and my defensive end had like 6 sacks, but he never adjusted. He had like some rookie left tackle out there who's got superstar Devo, so he's like trying to get the XP to build him up. But the guy's like, 64 overall, and he was just getting manhandled, and he was not keeping a running back in. He wasn't putting a tight end to that side. He wasn't leaving somebody in to block, and you got manhandled. And if you do that in this match, if you don't adjust, then you're going to get manhandled pretty easily. And even in my game last night that, I'm still kicking myself over, it was fun that, mid-game I had to change some of my game plan because he changed some of his game plan. And, that is a fun thing to do, that back and forth, that game planning and strategy against one another. So I hope that people are enjoying this game. And the content has been amazing. So grownfolksoc.com is where you can find our website. The content has been outstanding. There's more content out there than you can shake a stick at. From all the leagues. The NBC has been pumping out content. I know they're in their off season. The TFL puts out tons of content. The Deuce has been putting out tons of content. Not a ton from the OMFL. It seems like me, the Jets, the Steelers. Every now and then I think I see things from you and your Patriots. So you'll see a few things from the OMFL, but we could use a little bit more from the OMFL. But outside of that, the content has been amazing. You can also find our Twitter and YouTube pages on here, so please go give us a subscribe, go give us a follow, like some of our videos, leave some comments, right? All the comments really, really help. All the likes really help because when people, search for like Madden or leagues or CFM, it pulls them up from the likes and the comments and the views, that type of stuff. And so the more stuff that you can help us with, the better it's going to be. So that's going to put a bow on the show. Bloop, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate you joining us. Dwayne and Maniac, I missed both of you guys again, but I understand that this is where life is. We've opened it up to the All 22 crew, just so I don't have to do any more shows alone. Hopefully one day soon, both the other guys will be able to rejoin us, but I also know that I hate doing these shows alone, so I opened it up a little bit more to get more people on here. The Grown Folks Golf Association is going to be kicking off season 19 here in a couple of days, so make sure you tune into that. I know the PUBG clan is steadily playing. It seems like there's a Call of Duty clan that has been picking up here recently, so look, go like some of the stuff. Go follow some of the stuff. If you play other things here, make sure that you let us know. And until next week, we'll see you right here at Press Pass Live. Have a great week. God bless you. Peace.
See you guys.